All right, and welcome back, everybody. Thanks for waiting. We're going to be getting into our second match of Ainlay 1 versus Center High very shortly, but first we're actually going to take a quick look through the brackets first. So we're going to start again with Pool 1, which is actually a very, very exciting pool currently. So as you guys can see right now, Lizert 2 and McNally are sitting at 3-1 apiece, and Osborne 2 is sitting at 4-0. Now, a really important thing to do is Lizert has to play Osborne next, and McNally has to play Londonderry for their next match. So I honestly, looking at the scores, I'm just going to assume McNally is going to beat Londonderry, and then that's going to lead them to 4-1. Now, in the case that Lizert upsets Osborne 2, who looks like the clear favorites of this group, we're going to have a three-way 4-1 tie in Pool 1. But that's assuming that Lizert upsets Osborne 2. Now, in most cases, it looks like if Osborne 2 does win their game, though, they're going to clearly take first, and then it's likely going to McNally just because on paper, at least, they have the easier matchup than Lizert 2. So that's one thing we're going to look at there. So now we'll go take a quick look into Pool 2. All right, so this one's a little bit closer. So we have another like 3-1 ties and stuff like that. And the game that we're playing from this one, which is actually our last match of the day, is going to be Osborne 1 versus Wagner. Now, I think Wagner and Jasper Place are playing right now. So that's a very, very important match, because the winner of that is going to go up to 4 wins and likely secure first. Now, in the case that, just say, I don't know, say Jasper Place wins or something like that, whichever one goes up 4-1 pretty much has the victory there. And then, so let's assume that Jasper Place wins. They're at 4-1. They've secured the group. It's going to be between Osborne and Wagner are going to be fighting over second. But there could potentially be a tie in this group, but it is a little bit more skewed because Osborne and Wagner do have to play each other. So I think it's more likely going to be somebody fighting over for second rather. So this group's a little bit less volatile, I think, than Group 1, but it's still going to be very close, and there's a lot of potential for ties. So good thing we have a lot of time set aside for tiebreakers, because I think there's going to be quite a few. Now we're going to be moving on to Pool 3. All right, so Pool 3 is sitting up at 2-0 for Lizert 1, and Londonderry sitting at 2-2. They have finished all their matches, and Queen Elizabeth is sitting at 1-2. So unfortunately, I'm fairly confident that Queen Elizabeth and Londonderry are probably going to be out of the contention if Ainlay 1 and Lizert, Ainlay 2, and Lizert do keep up the momentum that they've had. But there is the potential that if Ainlay 2 and Lizert do lose their matches, there could be yet another tie for second. Now, actually, Ainlay 2 versus Lizert 1 is going to be our third match of the day. And obviously, the winner of that is likely going to secure first in the bracket. So I think that match is going to be very, very crucial to just get the momentum and secure themselves in one. When we actually get to that match, we'll have an updated bracket, and we'll likely see which one is sitting at 3 wins at that current moment. But on paper right now, this group does have a lot of potential for just a fight for first in our third match of the day. And then actually going into Pool 4, which is going to be actually relevant to the match you're all about to see, which is going to be Center High versus Ainlay 1. Now, Ainlay needs one more win to secure first. They're sitting up at 3-0. They're very, very comfortable, to put it lightly. But in the case that Center 1 does get the upset here, we're going to have another 3-way tie in the tournament. So assuming Center High wins this match, they're going to be self up for a 3-way tie between everybody sitting at 2-1. Oh, sorry. No, never mind. Ainlay is sitting comfortable up at 3-0. Unfortunately, the score is updated since I made my little notes. So actually, it's going to be, say Center High does get the upset win here, they're going to be competing directly with Ross Shepherd.
Yeah, there's just going to be a lot of tiebreakers, honestly.
There's going to be a ton of tiebreakers. All right, so unfortunately, I am a little bit wrong with some of my facts, because the Ross Shepherd versus Center High game wasn't updated when I originally looked at this. But assuming Center High does manage to pick up the win here against Ainlay 1, they will be able to secure themselves a tiebreaker for second place. So this is a very crucial game for Center High. And actually, that's going to be one we're getting right away. We have everybody in here. We're going to move over to Pro Draft as soon as we can.
Yeah, as you said, this game is going to be very crucial to see who moves on into the playoffs, because only the top 2 teams from each group or each pool are going to be able to compete in the quarterfinals. And this game, well, every game counts, basically.
Yeah, no, this game is vitally important for Center High to keep their playoff alive. Because, yeah, assuming they do manage to keep up the victory here, they're going to tie themselves with Ross Shepherd. And then they'll probably just play the tiebreaker out. And it looks like we are getting into Pro Draft here. As soon as we can. Oh, I see. All right. So we have an update from my producer. It looks like one of their coaches did have to run off for a quick minute. So we will have a slight bit of a delay. But, this gives us a bit to muse and look at our stat sheets and give some ideas of how you think this is going to go early, or Swanner, rather. I'll say it right one day.
It doesn't matter, honestly, at this point. No, I do think that the mid laner for Ainlay 1, what I have on the stat sheets right here is that this person has a very big champion pool. So that's going to be kind of using this mid lane pressure or using this kind of advantage that they can get through the mid lane. They're going to try to probably transfer it over to the side lanes, and that kind of has been the name of the game these past few days, to just lane priority, lane priority, lane priority.
Exactly. And then we are getting started into draft right away. It looks like an early Jax ban coming down from Ainlay. And it looks like Center High is going for that target ban on the, not a target ban rather, but just banning out the Camille, which Camille has been extremely dominant this entire tournament.
Oh yeah, you saw in the last game, she was able to just dominate over the Wukong, especially with the Ignite as well, just having so much lane pressure and also being able to transfer it over to help her jungler out as well. So banning this out is kind of banning the potential scaling of this champion. And a Dr. Mundo, it looks like he might be banned as well.
Yeah, no, Dr. Mundo, I think, is a very strong... It looks like a lot of more jungle-based bans coming out, and I think the Jax might have been more of a top-focused ban, but Dr. Mundo has been extremely strong in the jungle as of late. He has a little bit of an early game as he gets scaling up, but once he gets to the point where he starts rolling, he's incredibly tanking, super hard to kill, and his clear is nearly instant. And speaking of instant clears, the Lilia ban on the other side is almost the same idea.
Yeah, you cannot get a faster clear than Lilia, or... This little deer, when she gets going, and banning this out is just removing the potential scaling as well from this Lilia.
Yeah, exactly. And a Fiddlesticks. I feel like this is a target ban because, Fiddlesticks is not the most prominent jungler, but maybe they, got an op.gg earlier, looked up the other players, and are like, this guy plays a lot of Fiddlesticks. I don't want to play against Fiddlesticks.
It could also be a support Fiddlesticks ban, maybe, who knows. And it looks like we're going to have a Vayne ban as well. Vayne is able to shred tanks really well in the late game, so maybe Ainlay are looking for a tank pick?
Yeah, maybe like a tanky support pick, maybe getting in their top laner, or they might prioritize something very strong like the Seraphine, which can flex to mid or support. I think that's a very good pickup to get early, because building comps around Seraphine is very, very easy, and it being a flex pick, you can just work around it far easier than some other picks you can pick up in the early game. And with her being as strong as she is, big priority.
Yeah, Seraphine can also go into the AD carry role as well. Well, not really AD carry, but she can play as a carry as well in the bot lane.
True. Yeah, you can run the double enchanter comp, but you guys might have run into solo queue where you run the Seraphine Sona bot lane, and it's just a ton of poke damage. It's ridiculous sustain, but the main thing is you get 2 Moonstone Renewers. You run carries in your other lane, maybe 1 tank, and nobody dies.
And on center high side, we're getting a dive comp, I have a feeling, where we have the Kai'Sa coming out, Hecarim. These 2 champions are just going to be looking to get onto the carries line at Ainlay.
Yeah, definitely looking for that heavy engage, and Xayah would actually be quite a strong pickup here. With her ultimate, she's able to avoid a lot of that early game dive and actually almost punish it, because she ults up, pulls all the feathers back and stuns the engaging team. So I think it's a very strong pick, particularly when you have the Seraphine to enable her and shield her, and of course the healing from Moonstone Renewer.
Yeah, definitely. Xayah versus Kai'Sa. I remember there was like a period of time where these were the only 2 AD carry champions that were being played. So it's going to be like a little throwback maybe, and it looks like it's going to be a Jarvan 4 coming out as well.
Yeah, definitely the Jarvan's... No, it switched to the Olaf last second, which actually I think Olaf is going to help them shore up any early game problems they may have with his very, very powerful clear, but also you can usually actually invade an early game Hecarim with the Olaf and push an advantage, particularly if you have very responsive lanes. And actually, from our little stat sheet earlier, the jungler is unfortunately the lowest rank on center high, so this might actually be an idea of what Ainlay's doing, is just targeting potentially the weakest link on a team and just going for it and just trying to snowball a jungle advantage or something like that. Because everybody did have their account available, so you could do a little bit of scouting before the game.
Yeah,
Oh,
and it's going to be the
Silas.
Silas coming out. I don't know if currently the only good alt that I can see Silas stealing right now is going to be the Seraphino, just because of the CC potential. But I mean, who knows? Who knows what Ainlay is going to pick next?
Oh, I'm just currently reading chat. I think either they had the wrong ban or that. I don't know. I think maybe the TO is gonna look into that and figure out what's going on. I think either A, they picked the wrong champion, maybe did the wrong ban or something like that. So looks like there are some problems going on, and we will attempt to get that resolved, or they'll stick with it. It's totally up to TO's discretion of this thing. All I am is telling you guys what's going on.
Yeah, it's.
All right, so I've got my update from the producer. We're going to restart the draft, and we're going to do everything the same up to the second ban phase, and then they're going to resume the draft from there.
Yeah, from just reading the chat, it seemed like that they wanted to pick the Bard instead of the Silas. So that being said, if Bard is their ideal pick, that's also it can lock up some of these champions. So Xayah, if she doesn't get Gale Force, she's pretty immobile, and if she gets caught by the Bard ultimate, you can just have this dive comp, like with the Hecarim and the with the Kaisa, just going onto the backline, killing the Xayah, killing the main damage, the AD carry, and that's mainly how Center High is going to be looking to play this game out.
Yeah, I think a problem you can sometimes run into the Bard, particularly with I mean to put this bluntly, but just some lower skill players, is they don't really know how to navigate Bard in lane, and this results in the AD carry being very exploitable. Or some people are actually just too gung-ho to roam on Bard because they're like, oh, he's the roaming support, and they just abandon their AD carry to the wolves, and they usually just end up dying a whole bunch of the AD carries just sitting there like, why have you done me this way? So that's one thing you have to be very careful when you're executing the Bard. It's a very easy pick to play incorrectly and kind of make your AD carry's life not a good one. And if you accidentally maybe mess up your roams or something like that, you can end up feeding into other lanes and stuff like that. So it is a very powerful pick, but it is a very skill dependent one as well.
Yeah, that being said, another crucial thing that Bard can mess up is the ultimate that I was talking about earlier. You can either catch out the opposing team, it can win you a team fight, or you can also screw up your own team as well. So there's also that potentiality.
Yeah, so it's a very volatile pick. I think it is very strong, but there is definitely an execution barrier behind the character. But there's also an execution barrier behind your team and knowing how to respond to a Bard properly, because he does engage in kind of this almost interesting way. I know obviously the ult is like huge and stuff like that, but you have to know how to react to it, because even though you are locked up in the Bard ult, the cooldowns of your abilities actually are regenning at the same time. So usually people, when they get at a Bard ult, do have access to most of their abilities. So you need to understand the timing on when Bard ult ends and how to punish it correctly.
And also another thing about Bard, his portal, he can just throw the Hecarim into the other team and then have everyone follow up as well. So there's also that, I guess, potential outcome of this Bard.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential for the character to go well too. Like I think Bard is a very good pick with a lot of dive comps and stuff like that. He can also provide your AD carry with some peel. But he is definitely more about the go in, roam, get your lanes going and stuff like that. So I'm also going to be interested to see if potentially Ainlay bans the Bard in their picks, because they do have the potential to do that. So that may happen. However, they're going to pick Bard up early here. Oh, because I think they meant to pick Bard over the Silas is what occurred. So yeah, that's what happened there. Okay.
Yeah, so going to the second phase of pick and ban, Center High, it seems like that they need to pick out their two solo laners, while Ainlay, both teams need to pick out these two solo laners.
Yeah, exactly. So probably a lot of target bans coming down onto either the lanes. I think they may target more towards top. Just judging by that Camille ban in the early game, they want their top laner to be more comfortable. And the Ornn, yeah. So there's two top lane bans coming out. So I think they want their top laner to be a little bit more comfortable, and I think they're a little bit more okay with their mid laner taking either a disadvantaged matchup or just delaying the pick enough to the point where you can just counter pick instead.
Yeah, Ornn is a really good tank. And Xayah, when she gets her items, she has the ability to shred these tanks. So banning away the Ornn is just kind of taking away the front line of Ainlay as well. And it looks like Orianna is also going to be banned, so another control mage. Control mages are actually, I do think, are really good against dive comps, and Orianna particularly, because of the shockwave, it can just turn around a fight.
Yeah, it looks like they're trying to ban around the counter engage of the opposing team, because even though Ornn is like kind of the tank you can shred through, his ult can very easily turn a team fight, even if they are diving you, into your favor. And he has a lot of like knock up and CC and stuff like that. So they really want to make sure their dive is a success and kind of limit the options of Ainlay to build around a counter dive comp. But they have a really good pieces so far, though.
Yeah, also taking away the Shen to prevent the Shen Hecarim combo, which can be so devastating.
Yeah, exactly. Just having so much global pressure too, because it's very easy to say you do have the Shen. You can bring the Bard up and have kind of a party in whatever lane you want.
Yeah, Shen also can like protect the Kai'Sa, it could also like protect the Hecarim, as I mentioned. And it looks like Center High is going to be picking this Wukong as well, which we saw in the last game did not do very well against the Camille.
Yeah, so definitely they saw that. Maybe they were watching that game and they're like, maybe we shouldn't let the Camille play against the Wukong. But Wukong is a very strong pick coming out, particularly because even if he isn't the initial diver, he has a lot of like he can dive after, he can be the initial dive. So they have a lot of options for how they want to get on the enemy team. And I'm almost curious if the mid laner is either going to be more of a control mage to like continue the dive, or they're going to opt for another initial diver, because any of these champions so far can do the dive and any of them can just follow it up right after. And actually a Cho'Gath coming out too, which is a very tanky boy.
Also adding on to that, Ainlay also picked the Syndra, and Syndra, another control mage, does have really good CC, and if she can lock down a member or get a pick onto Center High, Olaf, everyone can just follow up. Interesting. Is this going to be a Wukong mid and Karma top, or is it?
I think it's probably going to be the Karma top. I think it's Karma mid. Probably going to go into the Moonstorm Renewer build, or they're going to go full AP. I'm not sure. I think the Moonstorm Renewer build might actually be better, because then when you get Staff with a Flowing Water, you can give everyone on your team movement speed, which, you know, on a Hecarim is kind of sick.
Oh no, it's going to be the fast.
It's going to be the fast. So I think she's a great great champion to enable that. She's also a very safe laner that can be hard to exploit. I think she does have a bit of a losing matchup with the Syndra, but if you do play it properly, you can get it a lane very healthy and then just converge into a comp later. But also what she offers too is with her AoE shield, she can do it either A, right as you're diving to help mitigate that initial burst damage, or B, after you get into the fight and say you guys are starting to lose, she can just drop her shield and just, you can either A, run away with the shield, or maybe the shielding's just enough to help you turn that fight. So I think the Karma is actually a great pick here to just enable their dive to be as strong as humanly possible.
Yeah, definitely. And then Karma, like, she might struggle a little bit in lane, but once she gets that shield, it's going to be very hard to kind of lock her down just because of how fast she is. And then also her tether, as her root. If she has an empowered root, she is also able to heal up from that as well. So it's going to be a little bit difficult to get onto this Karma, but there's still the potential ability to lock her down as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's going to be a very interesting comp from either side. So Center High, we've always been alluding to a lot of, they're just slowly building up their dive comp. But how would you say Ainlay needs to play around this comp? What are also some of the strengths of their comp? Like what is their win condition? What do they want to focus on?
I do think that we're going to be focusing on this mid jungle duo that we have, because I think Syndra and Olaf are a very strong duo. And then if they can use this, which I alluded to earlier, if they can use this advantage that they have in the mid lane, roam down to the bot lane, roam over to the top lane, kind of prevent the Wukong from getting out of control, also getting the Xayah Seraphine ahead, that is going to be Ainlay's win condition throughout this game.
Yeah, exactly. And even just touching on like the sheer team fight of each one as well, I think it's gonna more likely be Center High going in, and then Ainlay needs to play the disengage almost perfectly in order to get out of it. But they actually do have very, very strong disengage tools. They have the Seraphine ult, which when the entire team dives in, it's pretty easy to hit. The Xayah ult allows her to mitigate the dive onto her and potentially lock up the team. Olaf is a little inconsequential in the counter dive. He's more there just to be annoying and beat up on people, but his ultimate does allow him to not be locked up before that. The Syndra, you just press E, literally push everybody away. Cho'Gath has a knock up and a silence. So they have a lot of ways to stop this dive from happening, but they need to execute it all quickly before they all die from the initial burst damage. And I think Olaf is also very crucial, as you were talking, as he's going to let this comp mitigate its semi-weak early game as Cho'Gath, the Zion, the Seraphine kind of get stacking. The Syndra, I think, is going to be very relevant, but the Olaf is going to be able to get them jungle control and stuff like that, but also be able to respond to ganks in a very timely fashion.
Yeah, definitely. And then, well, I'm assuming that they're going to be trying to look for the early Skeletal Crabs, maybe, because of how strong Syndra can be with the stun, with their Scatter of the Weak. So there might be a little bit of fighting in the river around the early game, and we might also be seeing scuffles around the dragon as well.
Exactly. So it looks like there's a delay with the game. I'm going to quickly check in with my producer to see what's going on, and I will let you all know as soon as I learn it. All right, so it sounds like we're just going to quickly remake the lobby into a tournament draft just to enable the pause function in case each team needs it. And as soon as we do have that lobby going, they're going to quickly redo pick and draft, much the same as we have here. And then we're going to get into game. Though I may suggest if we are remaking the lobby and we do need to go through draft, it might be worth to take a little bit of a pause and then just start in game as soon as we get there. All right, I've been informed, no pause from the producer, so we will stay on. We've kind of talked about the comps a lot. But actually, I think we should take the hot takes and just look at ranks and reflect on which team you think is stronger, just strictly on paper, no bias, ignore the comps. Which team do you think has better players and why?
Just looking at the ranks of these two teams, I do think that Ainlay is coming in with advantage, just because of, well, their higher rank. The ranks are a little bit higher than Center High. But it's all going to come down to the teamwork that these two teams have. Even if you have the best players in the world, if they cannot work together in team fights, it's going to be a little bit difficult to win a game.
And I think this is actually a great example with these two comps that they do have selected, because Center High needs to be coordinated and execute all their abilities correctly, and also not do all their abilities all at once. They have to layer their CC properly, engage at the same time to ensure their dive is a success. And Ainlay needs to react to that dive. And I'm mostly just talking strictly about the team fight. There will be fighting in lanes and stuff like that. But say just in a 5v5 team fight, Ainlay needs to respond with their abilities. But yet again, much like Center High, not drop them all at once. They need to slowly layer their abilities properly, communicate who's dealing with it, who's doing what, in order to ensure that each fight goes in their favor. And all it takes is one mistake from either player, a miscommunication or anything like that, and now you've dropped all your ults at the beginning of the fight, and the enemy team's like, wow, looks like I just want to fight.
Yeah, all of Ainlay's champions, I do believe that they're immobile, unless if you count the Olaf just running at you with an unstoppable Ragnarok or something like that. So if Center High can get a pick onto Ainlay, it's going to be very crucial for them, and that could potentially accelerate the snowball.
Yeah, exactly. I think if any of the teams do get snowballing here, now Center High does have a strong dive comp, but if they get behind in the early game, they're not going to be able to dive and kill anybody because they're really relying on that initial burst into CC. So they do have a little bit of wiggle room because of just how long their CC lasts. Even if their damage is a little bit lower, they can get away with it. But if Ainlay does get ahead at all, it's going to be very difficult for Center High to do any of their dives, even on individual lanes and stuff like that, because just simply from the health you get from being a higher level, having more items, it's going to be likely that Ainlay's characters can just fight back against this dive comp.
Yeah, it's also going to be a little bit interesting because if Karma does go for this Moonstone Renewer item build, she's going to be able to kind of make sure the team does not die as fast if they do dive in. And Syndra, she does have this point-and-click ultimate that can just melt one of the champions. So maybe a Hecarim or even the Kai'Sa. If she can get onto the Kai'Sa, that's going to be a very big turning point for Ainlay.
Now, I think another interesting thing we should touch on too is I think the early game jungling is going to be fairly vital to this to ensure that the lanes get ahead. But if either one of these junglers get behind, it's much like the last game we watched where like if Hecarim's ahead of the Olaf, he can just fight him in his jungle, steal all his camps, and then vice versa with the Olaf. Even though the Olaf is a little bit stronger in the early game, if that Hecarim's even slightly ahead, that 1v1 goes completely in the favor of whichever character is more fed. I mean, this is the case of most characters, but in the jungle, it's extremely punishing because not only are you losing your life, you're losing your camps. So how do you think the jungle pathing is going to go in the early game? Are we going to see some early ganks? Are they going to prioritize camps? What do you think is going to be the game plan for each jungler on each side?
I do think that for Ainlay, they're going to be looking more towards the mid and the bot side because Cho'Gath is going to be playing weak side top lane. There's not much that he can do in the early game. So Olaf, I'm assuming that I'm not the best jungler in the world, but I think that he's going to be looking towards for the pathing towards the bot side. While on center high, Wukong can be potentially strong, but maybe there's the chance that center high wants to get this Kai'Sa ahead in the early game as well, using the CC from Bard that he has. So there's a lot of ways that center high's jungler Hecarim can go.
Yeah, and if they don't opt for any early jungles, I mean, any early ganks or anything like that, I think a crucial point is going to be the Scuttle Spawn, just simply because of how much XP and gold Scuttle gives you. Because as we talked about in the last game, the Cossacks ended up getting a double Scuttle over the Trundle. And what resulted is he kind of just snowballed ahead in level. He had a ton of gold and just made life for the Trundle miserable. And that's actually going to be the exact same thing in this matchup. Like, Scuttle just has so much value, and even ignoring just the gold and XP, it gives over that lane, like just right down the river, which can catch most mid lane ganks and stuff like that, which actually might be a little bit more vital for, say, Ainlay than center high, because center high is looking for that dive. They want to bring their Bard up. They want to bring their Hecarim up. So actually, maybe even the bot lane Scuttle might be a highly contested objective, because if you do get that Scuttle for the favor of center high, you've kind of freed up your Bard to come gank the Karma mid lane, which has good lockdown. You bring in the Hecarim, you got the shield for movement speed. It does turn into a fairly easy gank, assuming the opponent's not ready for it. But on the flip side, if Ainlay gets control of the bottom Scuttle, it'll give them the vision and just kind of deny that Bard from coming from anywhere but kind of weirder approach angles, which doesn't make the gank as clean. So I think there's going to be a lot of contention over the bottom Scuttle, because I just think there's so much priority in the bot lane for both of these comps.
Yeah, and also I'm just thinking if center high are going to be willing to pair up this Hecarim with the Karma, moving down over to the bot lane, using the Karma shielding that and the speed up that she has, just to get the Hecarim into range of the Xayah and the Seraphine, adding onto the Bard CC and the Kai'Sa ultimate. Once that does get unlocked, the bot lane can be a very volatile place to be.
Yeah, exactly, because it's so strong in either way. The poke priority does go in the favor of the Xayah and Seraphine, so there's going to be priority pushing into that lane. So I think we should actually look at the other lanes too, like which lane is going to have priority over who, like which lane's going to be pushing in, which character is a little bit more advantaged in the early game 1v1s.
Like I said before, mid lane, I do think that Syndra is going to have a little bit of an advantage over the Karma because of just her AoE abilities are a little bit better. And top lane, going back to what I said, Cho'Gath, I do think he's going to be playing the weak side. He's just going to be to scale up, just build up all that health, become an unkillable tank in the late game. But in the early game, he's going to be struggling a little bit. Now, bot lane, it's going to be all about CC, I think, because if Seraphine can land a root, Xayah can easily follow up with her Blade Caller, and same with center high. Bard, if he gets a stun onto a Seraphine or a Xayah, they're two immobile champions. And Kai'Sa can just follow up easily, E forward, get her a Cathian rain down, deal a lot of damage.
Yeah, exactly. No, I do agree. And we're just getting loaded into game here. Oh, sorry about a couple of delays there, folks, but we'll get started right away here.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what this early game pathing is going to be like from each of the junglers. I'm kind of hoping there is a lot of contention over that bot lane Scuttle. And if center high does take it, I'm really interested to see if they do utilize it properly, or maybe Ainlay has like a good counteraction to it or something like that. So I think there's going to be a lot of volatility in the early game between these two comps, particularly because they're just so mobile on either side.
Yeah, definitely. There's just going to be... I have a feeling that this game is going to be action-packed, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of kills. It's either A, going to be a ton of action, a lot of kills, a lot of roams and stuff like that, or even maybe not a lot of kills, but just a lot of fights happening. Or B, it's going to be them just scaling up until they can do a 5v5 team fight. And then you finally see what we've been alluding to for like the whole time of how that kind of fight dynamic works. But it's more likely there's going to be some early game aggression, but you know, it can always go either way.
I also do think that Bard is going to be, like, after the first back, he might be looking towards a roam in the mid lane, just making sure that this Karma does not fall too far behind against the Syndra.
An early game invade. So actually what you might notice from our last games that the center high didn't do as early here is actually just stand in the bushes laid down near the bottom to detect a roam earlier than figured out on the later part because of where Bard was standing. But if say the Bard had been standing in the low bush, they might have spotted that a bit earlier and taken just a little bit less damage and not let the team get as far. But there's not really a lot happening from that engage. I think the supports may be getting a little bit of gold on their passive items.
Yeah, you can already see the vision being laid down from Ainlay. This is going to allow them to track the jungler, and it does look like that Hecarim is looking for this the blue buff start, and possibly just moving his way up to the top lane to help this Wukong accelerate his scaling.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see that too because of just how much precedent we're putting on this early game jungle. For them to be able to know where the Hecarim is and know which way he goes, because they'll know if he goes down to take his Gromp early or goes for an early Wolf clear. And this will give them kind of a general idea of which direction he's going to play around the map. The Olaf, on the other hand, red team has absolutely no idea where he's playing. Now they know he started blue because they see the Cho'Gath coming up through river as opposed to starting in the lane. So they have an idea where the Olaf is, but they don't know his exact pathing. Where the ward offered by blue team, on the other hand, has shown them where the Hecarim is. So Ainlay has a little bit more up on the vision game than center high, but center high also knows where the enemy jungler is. So there's going to be a lot of just, I think, interactions here because they have an idea. And actually, I think a cool interaction you can sometimes see in the mid lane is you'll actually notice the mid laners hugging towards the side of where their jungler is playing so they can have reactions and stuff like that. So you can sometimes gain information from that as well if the players are playing in that pattern, which sometimes doesn't happen at some of the levels of these games, but it is very prominent up in pro play and stuff like that. And we got a little bit of trades up in the bottom lane because Ainlay did get an early level 2 there, so it was definitely their advantage to go push.
Yeah, you can see with the Kai'Sa's Cathian Rain, if it's on an isolated target, you can see like the damage that it does to Xayah. One thing to note is that I believe that the damage did get a little bit nerfed, but that doesn't mean it's not viable either. And you can also see Olaf pathing down towards the bot side. Bot lane Scuttle is going to be spawning soon, so I believe he's going to go for that right after. And this is allowed because while his bot lane is pushing up, his mid lane is not doing that bad either. Be looking over to the top side where this Wukong has the priority.
Yeah, exactly. Playing around the lanes that they have priority in to take these scuttles. But actually, I think a crucial thing too is there was actually a ward for red in the middle of that river before, but like Hecarim's actually come down here. So yeah, here's that early game scuttle, and it looks like center high is going to be taking it unless the bot lane comes up to contest it. Olaf is coming up from there, so I think we're gonna have a big fight over the scuttle because this scuttle is just so important, like we were alluding to. But a great take from Ashabot early on there to get the scuttle and confirm that. Now this does enable the Bard and stuff to roam. They have a ton of vision in this jungle because of that scuttle. They have a ward in the bush. They have the scuttle up now, though Ainlay does have some vision in the blue side of red as well. But this will enable the Bard and stuff like that to roam up the river because Ainlay doesn't have vision in the river. So I think it's going to be vital for the Bard to play around this vision and maybe even coordinate with thing. Oh, and he got the double scuttle as well.
Yeah, double scuttle. This is just going to be such an advantage for the Hecarim into the Olaf. And Olaf, if he falls behind, he's not going to have the best of games.
Yeah, no, he's a very early game dominant champion, so he needs to play around that moment when he is still strong. But with the Hecarim getting the double scuttle there, I think he's going to back an item, and you might actually see quite a bit of counter jungle play here as well, just with him snowballing like that, or he's going to take his advantage and move it towards his laners. So I think it's going to be interesting to see which dynamic happens there. But as you saw with the priority lanes, though bot lane have prio, this does enable them to be ganked a little bit more easy. And with center high having better vision down the river, now you do see the Ainlay does have a blue ward just sitting in the bush there, so they can detect a Hecarim gang. But Center High has superior vision in the river, so they can set up and then also resist any ganks and stuff like that. So I think you're going to probably see the Hecarim going bottom, or if this Cho'Gath stays as pushed up as he is, you might see an early roam up into the top lane here just because the Hecarim is in the area.
You can also see the 2 wards that Center High's bot lane had in the bushes. That is probably covering for a potential lane gank, which I have sometimes seen, and it looks like that Ainlay is going to be going for this early dragon as well. 5 minutes into the game, right when it spawns, everyone is there.
Yeah, and to notice too is, for one, the scuttle despawn, but Ainlay took over the vision in the river with the control ward, and that they also were aware that the Hecarim was in the top lane. I'm fairly confident because they roamed down 4 people and took an early dragon. It looks like there's gonna be some fighting down here, but Bard can easily get out with his portal. But that was an excellent play by Ainlay to realize, okay, we think the jungler's top. They may have had vision on him. I did miss out on that. And then they just brought 4 people down, got control over the river vision, and just took the dragon. That was completely taken over this bottom lane. And actually a crucial thing of this too is look how many gank ways, approaches that they've covered with this vision. It's very difficult for the Hecarim to approach mid lane, or even the Bard to come in here, because like to get around this vision is nearly impossible without even coming through their jungle, which you probably don't want to be, even though the Hecarim is actually, no, the Hecarim is no longer ahead of the Olaf. The Olaf has caught up in CS. So this is, they were at a bit of an advantage early on, but that dragon play was incredibly powerful for Ainlay to not only even out the score, they actually are a slight bit ahead just because of the power spikes of their champions.
Yeah, and farm overall has been pretty even, except for the top lane. Obviously, Wukong is going to have that advantage there. Is about 10 CS up. And it looks like Hecarim is going to get the 3rd scuttle of the game as well. Olaf's showing a little bit too late.
Yeah, exactly. And the Wukong coming down there to ensure that happened, because maybe if it was just the Hecarim, the Olaf may have been willing to take the fight for that. But with the Wukong there's just no reason to go in, no reason to fight that, and that's just another free scuttle. Now they have vision up on the top lane, so they might look around to play around with either a Wukong gank, or maybe the Hecarim will play around it. So I think the focus of Ainlay is going to be the bot lane, where they have superior vision, and they can also deny the Bard, who you see they're roaming up here, and they're coming up through the jungle, but Seraphine doesn't commit. But you see that ward down there. If the Bard does pat down a bit, yeah, so they've spotted him. They know where the Bard is at the moment, and they're roaming towards mid lane. So they're utilizing the bot lane where they are strong. Well, I think Center High is going to play over more top lane, but a beautiful route coming down here. Not going to be quite the kill, just because Karma Shields are very, very strong in the early game.
And it looks like
they know the Bard's there.
And it looks like that Ainlay are going to be rotating their bot lane over into the mid to prepare for this Rift Herald that's coming up in about 20 seconds. So putting their Syndra on the bottom side, she does have teleport as well. So that's going to allow her to kind of, I guess, get into the fight even though she's halfway across the map.
Yeah, no, that was a very smart lane swap from Ainlay here. Because, yeah, as you said, the teleport allows them to respond and take this objective. And actually, even though the dragon is in like 2 minutes, just the amount of lane prio and just XP they're going to be able to get onto their carries is probably you're probably going to see they take this Herald and then they start switching their vision, start switching their control back towards the bottom lane. So Ainlay is playing around these neutral objectives in just a fantastic fashion. But we do see Center High coming here to respond and maybe going to set up a fight and try to get them off this Rift Herald and maybe take an early game fight. All right, we got them pacing up here. We got some trading up in the top lane. The Cho'Gath trading favorably into the Wukong. Okay, we finally got the engage going down onto the Olaf. The Unstoppable Force gets them through. They do secure the Rift Herald, but it looks like the Olaf is going to go down for that. No, he's so strong with the lane. Okay, finally falls to the Hecarim, but the Wukong dies on the side lane. And the Cinderall coming down to finish off the Hecarim. And just a ton of little fighting in the middle of there, but it looks like Ainlay is coming on head. They got the Rift Herald, and they come out an advantage in the fight.
Yeah, getting the Rift Herald is pretty crucial for Ainlay, just to accelerate the gold lead that they already have. And also, but Hecarim, he did get the first blood, I believe, but he's going to be playing tank Hecarim, and that's not going to deal the most damage in the game later. That being said, Kai'Sa, as you can just see, has spent all this time getting the farm in the bot lane and was not able to get a turret plate, but she got all this solo XP as well, which is pretty crucial, which is going to be accelerating her scaling in the late game.
Yeah, exactly. So there was one small advantage to your Bard roaming around. Now your Bard's going to be a bit lower of a level from this, but your AD carry a lot of the time will be getting solo XP because your Bard's roaming around the map trying to make plays and stuff like that. So there's a lot of time where your AD carry will out-level your opponents. We just got a healing shrine, just chill it in there. But actually, I think we should take a look at the vision quickly. Just take a quick look. We'll start with Ainlay and then actually look towards center high. You can see Ainlay has a lot of vision up towards the top here, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them switch that towards the dragon that is spawning in 30 seconds-ish here. Well, center high, on the other hand, if we quickly switch over to that observer, thank you, they don't really have a lot of vision outside of this top lane. So I think there's going to be a lot of focus on this next dragon coming up, but neither team has a lot of vision control over it at the moment. So I think you're going to see some wards coming down. This bot lane is going to get pushed up, and I think Ainlay is going to set up for this next dragon.
Yeah, definitely. With the bot lane priority that Xayah and Seraphine have, they're going to be able to translate it over to that dragon. But you can see kind of Karma just hovering around that area as well, putting a control word down, which is going to get taken out immediately. But now they have information of where Ainlay is.
Yeah, exactly. And you see some fighting coming up with the top lane there. Cho'Gath. Oh, actually, he's so fast.
Here we go.
He's going in. They are taking Dragon in the bottom lane for Ainlay, so keep in mind they need to get this kill for this to even be slightly worth it. And a great fear coming up from Ashabot to knock him down, but the Cho'Gath is just so tanky, and they don't get the kill. And Moist Water just completely outplays the two of them, and Ainlay get the Dragon as well. So they came out completely ahead there. It was kind of strange to see the Hecarim go. Oh, and they have the Rift Herald going down in the bottom lane. Ainlay's just snowballing this advantage because they know the Hecarim's up in the top lane. The only person who can respond to this play. That was such a good Bard ult. Because the only person who can respond to this play is the mid laner. And a huge charm coming down. And it just knocks him up. And that is the beautiful tower dive coming down from Ainlay. But he's still taking tower. He doesn't know. Oh, no. You hate to see it. But hey,
mark things are coming out as well.
Yeah, but you see it. Okay, they're going to respond here. Not let more gold go on to that Xayah, but that was actually such a smart play. So quickly just break that down, Spawner. Why was Ainlay able to just go for that and succeed the way they did?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so going back to I guess the kind of top lane dive that we had with the Hecarim, they knew that they were not going Hecarim was not going to be able to get to the dragon in the bot lane. So they tried to go for a top lane dive, tried to go for a cross map play. But they weren't able to make that happen, and which is going to be just devastating later on in the game. But with the priority that Ainlay had in the bot lane, this allowed them to just push all the minions in, get a big wave as well, and that opened it up for, I guess, the dive that they did. Seraphine, her ultimate, you saw, just charmed everyone up. And there was no escape for Kai'Sa and Bard. You can see that Kai'Sa didn't even use her flash because she knew that she wasn't able to get out of there.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's an interesting thing to too. So it's also, yeah, the knowledge of like that the Hecarim was in the top lane, but they also took the further play because Hecarim pathed into his jungle instead of maybe responding down to the bottom. So like, okay, we know that Hecarim is still in the top lane. So they went for that Rift Herald, like you said, and it was such a smart play to play around where the jungler is. And this is just how important of a role the jungle is. Because when you know where the jungler is, it enables you to make plays on a side of the map because you know the only person who can even maybe respond is the mid laner.
Yeah, you can also, like, in that play, Hecarim and Karma did try to show up a little bit later, but like they were a little bit too little too late. And it looks like Hecarim is just going to run out of here safely.
Yeah, no, just a little bit of a scuffle happening in the top lane. Yeah, I think, we got to try and exploit them there, but just the Seraphine's roaming down the middle lane there. I don't think a lot of plays are going to happen from here, but I think a crucial thing to note is just this ward control by Ainlay has been so crucial throughout this game because center high wants to play around like this dive comp. Like they can just even dive with like 2 or 3 people, but they've completely denied the Bard and a lot of times even the Hecarim just simply a vision from being able to do a play. And we actually got another gank coming down here. Now they do have the ward in the bush to maybe see the Syndra, but they have no idea she's there yet. But it looks like they are just going to back off and likely back anyways. But I think they are aware that the Syndra is going for the roam. But look, they're doing another lane swap now that they have this pushed up here. And why?
Rift
Herald's coming up. This is just such smart play. They know when to rotate. And actually I think Karma might be dead in the mid lane here. They're going for the setup. All right, he's going for the lockdown here. They don't win this fight, but the Karma does manage to get it alive. But man, Ainlay's just putting a class act on of just how these lane swaps and stuff like that are meant to be done, particularly when you want to play around objectives. So maybe do you want to break down just kind of like more of what Ainlay's doing well and maybe how center high is not reacting to it as they should.
Okay.
No, I don't think that's going to lead to anything.
Yeah, I was just a little bit worried for a little bit. The main thing is that Ainlay, they do have the Ainlay, because they're able to push out.
Oh, nice stun. All right, I think I will hold that thought because I think we're going to have a fight here. Yeah, with that TP coming down, you know they're committing to the fight. Or at very least, maybe center high won't go in, but they do need to contest this. Yeah, Kaisa's not there. Oh, nice Bartle coming down. If they do get down to the Seraphine correctly here, they will lock her down, pulling this Cho'Gath back into the fight. They're setting up here. Oh, but the Wukong on the back line finishes off the Seraphine, and the Olaf's diving in, but they're wisely kiting back, doing as much damage as they can, but a huge Scatter of the Weak comes down from this Syndra, and they're just finishing him off here, and it's just Ainlay taking this fight pretty handedly, but they can re-engage if they want. There are low health bars on either side here, and they do have their Kaisa, but no, it's just they're taking too much damage, and luckily not another one of them is going to fall, but that does mean that the Rift Herald is going to go in favor of Ainlay, and Ainlay played that fight extremely well. Yeah,
I mentioned at the beginning of the fight, Ainlay had numbers advantage. The Kaisa was still moving up from the bot lane. She had to walk all the way across the map, and she wasn't there for the most of the fight. I do believe that she missed the Void Seeker as well and was not able to join immediately. And this is because Ainlay had tempo advantage. They were able to push out the bot lane, have Syndra move over there, and also push out the Kaisa because she does have more CC and more wave clear available as well. And Scuttle is
a risky fight to take because the Cho'Gath does have TP. It's committed down, and they're going to try it. It's like Center High really is just struggling. They need to take these objectives back, so they are going to try and force a fight here, and I think it is going to happen. They're just scaling back towards each other. And as we were talking about earlier, Center High wants to engage, but Ainlay has so much peel, so much counter engage that it's just they need to do it perfectly or they're all just going to get melted. So that's why they're so hesitant.
There's a lot of ultimates not available.
Yeah, exactly. A lot spent on the Rift Herald fight, so they're just going back, just kiting back and forth with each other. Just,
it's the dragon dance.
Nobody wants to engage, but we got the stun down onto the Hecarim. The Hecarim's likely going to go down here, but no, doesn't quite die. Gets the ult up before he dies, and the Olaf is just such a hassle in this backline. Not letting him live, but they do manage to take down the Olaf. The Bard does get them out. Oh, Karma's forced to flash because of a great knockup. Oh, no. I don't know if you want to quite be there. Oh no, and the Seraphine takes the tunnel to death. And I think it's an even team fight on either side there. Yeah, trading 2-2 apiece. Oh, but a Scatter the Weak over the wall, but not quite able to finish it off. But no, oh, it just locks up the dragon. You can't have it quite yet. Your meal is delayed, and Bard just barely not dying to the Xayah there. But it looks like oh, they're actually choosing not to go for it. Yeah, they don't have Feast.
Yeah, and they don't have Feast either.
Yeah, so just a solid fight by Ainlay there, because Center High has just been losing out so heavily on these neutral objectives. So you see, that's why they were just so desperate to deny that Cloud Drake, because they've lost both Rift Heralds, dragons there. So how do you think Center High can kind of work it back here? Because this game is in control of Ainlay because they've just had such good neutral objectives here, but Center High is definitely not out of it quite yet.
Yeah, Center High, one thing that I did notice is that Hecarim was rooted and stunned and just CC'd for a very long time, so he wasn't able to get off his ultimate until the last minute, and when he was about like 20% HP or even lower. And it looks like that there's
they're setting up. They're setting up for the dragon here. Oh, so he drops the Rift Herald there to divide their attention. Now, do keep in mind that Wukong does have TP to come into this fight, but they've divided Center High's attention. So they do have an advantage on the fight here, but a huge Bard stun stops them from getting engaged on early, but a stun coming down to the Kaisa, and that is likely a lost fight, and that's going to be the Horse going down to the rest of the fight there, and that stun on Kaisa was just so crucial. But the use of the Rift Herald there was just so big brain.
Yeah, using the Rift Herald mid lane just to draw the attention of Center High, to split their attention up, making sure that the mid lane, they have mid lane priority, which gives them river priority, and eventually the dragon. Now they're on Soul Point, and if Center High doesn't want the Elder Dragon to spawn very early on, they're going to have to be fighting every single dragon after.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of things, like we did, the Hecarim was a little bit ahead in the early game, but the Olaf has managed to mitigate that and get the advantage he needs. Because as you saw, like one of the small disadvantages of Ainlay comp is just their damage in the early game, and Olaf was actually drafted to mitigate that, and he's done that job wonderfully. But a crucial thing he's been doing is, though Center High does want to dive in, the Olaf just pops out, runs in, and just doesn't let Kaisa do anything. And Kaisa is Center High's primary damage because the Hecarim has gone tank. The Wukong, unfortunately, is like a little bit behind in the item build. Like, he's been farming well and stuff like that, but he needs a little bit more time to scale up his damage. And the Karma is more of a support. She has some damage, but not a ton. She's there to enable the fight. So the minute your Kaisa goes down, you just are not having a good time in that fight. It looks like we do have a dive set up here. They're locking down the Cho'Gath. Okay, not good, quite commit. Yeah, it was too risky. I think the turret damage would have outweighed them, even though the Cho'Gath is out of mana. But we got the Seraphine Roam coming up here, and probably just going to get some vision and take over there. Actually, Observer, can I quickly see when the Baron's going to spawn? So yeah, the Baron's spawning in 7 seconds here. So crucially, the support is roamed up, and they're taking over vision of the Baron pit. Because they got the scuttle early on, they got the vision set up there, and they've also crucially de-warded what
Also,
Center High had there.
This is just very good lane assignment from Ainlay. Okay, that was a little bit because because Syndra does have the teleport. Well, it's just going to come up. She is able to kind of go into the bot lane, play this side lane, and she can teleport in. Whereas if it was Cho'Gath in the bot lane, he would have to walk all the way across the map. And Syndra is just going to take the recall right now. But I do think that was very good lane assignments from the side of Ainlay. And looking over to Karma, it is going to be the noon possible build. And so the main damage that Center High is going to have is going to be 80 damage from the Kaisa and the Wukong. And Cho'Gath, he mainly just needs to build armor at this point because the Karma is not going to be the main damage threat, and you can already see the Bramble Vest coming out.
Yeah, and I think that is a crucial thing to note with Center High's comp. As you just stated, they're mostly focused all of their damage into 80 damage. Now, Kaisa does have a little bit of mixed damage, but it's definitely more on the 80 side of things. So, yeah, all Ainlay needs to do is build armor, but they also have tons of shields from the Seraphine and just a lot of other ways to mitigate that. Because actually, I think you can notice too, the Syndra has opted into the Seeker's Arm Guard, probably going into the Zhonya's. But the Seeker's Arm Guard just gives a ton of value when it comes to armor and mitigates a ton of the damage that Center High has here. So that, like, Ainlay's playing really well. Not only have they controlled the objectives and stuff like that, but they're building around not letting Center High's dive comp succeed. So they drafted around it, now they're building around it. It's very crucial to see people make these counter plays when it comes to build order and even just your general draft.
Yeah, you can kind of see how Center High is trying to establish a little bit of vision over this Baron to make sure that it's not going to be sneaked away from Ainlay. Because I do think that Xayah is very fast at taking down objectives if she does have that W up, and it looks like Hecarim is gonna maybe
he's looking
go for a little bit
in the mid lane. Oh, he needs to commit to this though. Okay, wisely gets himself out of there. Oh yeah, just a lot of pacing in this game, but vision has just been so important in this game because now they know where the Wukong is playing.
Oh, he didn't get the ward. Didn't catch the ward.
But it does look like Center High. Yeah, this is the ward. This is the master ward. He will not die to your Scryer's bloom. Now, the interesting thing to see is Center High does have control over the Baron pit vision, but they can't go for Baron just because of how strong Ainlay is right now. But they might try to sneak it, but when you see nobody on the map, it gets pretty obvious. Now, actually, what's the dragon timer at currently, Observer? It's currently at 30 seconds, so you might potentially see a split map play, because if Ainlay, say, starts setting up vision and stuff like that on the bottom ward, they might... Center High has the option to either fight them there, or potentially trade for Dragon Soul, which is totally up to your discretion on whether it's worth or not, particularly because it is Cloud Soul, which is viewed as one of the weaker ones. That just knocks Bard out of recall. Okay. But again, it looks like Ainlay is committing on to this fight for Dragon.
And I don't know. Sorry.
What? Sorry? No, it's just this recall from Karma is a little bit concerning because they've just completely taken control over there. And I think they might just be completely giving this away. Oh, yeah, a ton of them backed. Ugh.
I was going to say the Bard, he wanted to recall to stock up on his wards. And just that... The recalls, it was just a very, very bad timing, and it looks like Hecarim is going to be caught out as well.
Yeah, no, it looks like Hecarim was like, I think this is a part actually we completely touched on the beginning. It's just like teamwork is so important. And I think there was a massive miscommunication with there. It looked like the Hecarim wanted to contest that dragon, and we're so smart. That was so smart. I love when Wukongs do that. Yeah, a lot of people will just stop. They won't do anything on Wukong because when he puts out his clone just stands there. Oh my God. That was beautiful. So yeah, now they're turning their... Yeah, but now they're turning their attention... They don't have smite? Well, do they have chomp? No, they don't. Actually, no, I think they do have smite on cool. They do have smite currently, but yeah, no. Oh, sorry. You mean the Hecarim is dead?
Yeah, I mean
Hecarim
is not there. I don't know if he's going to be able to make it in time.
I don't think he will either. This is quite a pretty wise Baron by Ainlay. They're not killing it quite as fast because they have the Cinder off zoning, trying to keep the team off. But Hecarim might be able to get here if they keep killing it at this rate.
Bard can delay the Baron as well with his ultimate, so you can buy time.
All right, they're setting up
There we go.
That's a big Bardol coming down. He locks up the Cho'Gath and there, and now Center High is looking for the counter engage. They have got them off the Baron, and it is respawning. So even though they didn't manage to take a fight there, they stopped a crucial Baron take from Ainlay.
Yeah, I believe that Olaf was the one who was actually tanking the Baron, and he was just taken to below half health, so they weren't able to fight. And this is kind of giving Center High a little bit of breathing room just to take this mid lane turret. But another thing, Ainlay, they now have Dragon Soul. They have Cloud Soul. And even though this might not it's not going to be the game breaker, it's going to have Seraphine's going to have her ultimate up more. Olaf is going to be able to run at you more. Zai's going to be able to dodge all the CC more often. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult for Center High to come back.
Oh, we got to engage onto the Kaisa, and you just see how potent that Seraphine CC is. And that's a crucial most of Center High's damage there, and you might actually see a rotate up onto the Baron from Ainlay here. Now that they do have the numbers advantage. And it looks like they're scaling here. They're looking for it. And actually a crucial thing to note too, Olaf is a level up on Hecarim, and they have the Cho'Gath Chomp. So it's very unlikely that Ainlay loses a smite fight. So I think Center High might actually just need to give this up. Oh, but it looks like they don't want to. They want to engage. They're putting up for it. But as long as the Cho'Gath and the Olaf set up their the Cho'Gath ult and the smite correctly, there's no chance of Hecarim stealing this. Though. This is true. Yeah, they've locked on onto the Cho'Gath, but he also froze the Baron. So that means Cho'Gath is going to come out at the exact same time. All right, they need to set this up. They need to ult and smite at the same time. And there's that crucial Cho'Gath ult gets into it. And the Hecarim goes in trying to go for a steal, but you just can't make a steal against a comp like this as long as they're executing it properly.
Yeah, definitely. I do think that in that case, you're not going to be able to win a smite fight against a jungler who's a level up and a Cho'Gath beast. So I do think that in that case, Center High's best option there would be to push out the side lanes, like say the Kaisa is doing right now. But I do think that they should have done it a little bit earlier, just to delay the push from Ainlay with this Baron buff. And it looks like that they're going to be 5-man grouping in the top lane. My bad, 4-man grouping with the Syndra in the mid lane. Yeah,
exactly, because it's very, very strong to do like a 4-1 push with Baron, because not only do you get priority in like 2 lanes, but a lot of time when you're ahead like Ainlay is right now, you can very easily take a 4v5. And I think they're going to be getting the Bard down here quickly, but a huge stun coming out in the Olaf. He doesn't have ult though, it's crucial, and he's taking a lot of damage. Popped on the Sterix, here's the Wukong going in, manages to get out, but no, the Syndra ult denies him. And that is actually a flash used on the Wukong and a kill picked up onto the Syndra.
You could see the Karma shielding and the Moonstone Renewer just saving Bard's life right there.
Yeah, it's just such a strong combo. But look at this, there's so much turret take from even like just from the Xayah alone. And they just have so much pressure in these lanes now because of that Baron buff. Ainlay is just playing around these neutral objectives so cleanly.
Yeah, they've been first to every single neutral objective. They've rotated very, very well. It seems like a masterclass that Ainlay is putting on right now.
Yeah, like last time you guys got to see like a fantastic example of how to play like a 1-3-1 comp, particularly when you get ahead. And now you guys are seeing how to play like they're playing a little bit more of a counter engage comp, but actually they have a pretty good team fight themselves to begin with. But they're showing how you can like move your laners around and how you can use vision to secure objectives or heavily swing objectives in your favor. Because as you pointed out, they were at the objective first every single time, but this was a result of them usually setting up vision, clearing out the opponent's vision, and just being to that objective first because they just completely dominated that section.
Yeah, definitely. When you establish vision, it gives you such a big advantage because your team, the opponent team, now have to just face check into you. And other than Hecarim, there's not a very reliable tank on this team either.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then also you've seen that most of the team has been itemizing into armor as well, because as we pointed out earlier, all of Center High's damage is in AD. It's in attack damage. So with these itemizations and the comp that Ainlay's playing, and very simply the fact that they're ahead, it's going to be incredibly difficult for Center High to even maybe have a chance of coming back in this game. And they are setting up for Elder here. You were talking about neutral objectives. Look at the just massive line of vision Ainlay has. They're there and they are ready to take Elder Drake.
I do think that Ainlay should have gone for their top lane, top lane, bot tier 2 turret, before this elder just to push Center High even further back. And because they didn't, they're allowing Center High, they allowed this Hecarim into the river.
Yeah, exactly. But Hecarim is only level 11 while the Olaf's level 13. So this is another case of you can't outsmite the higher level jungler, but they also have the Cho'Gath. So absolutely no steals here. Center High needs to force a fight if they even want a chance of taking this. And down here, but a huge Bardol coming down, which will allow them potentially disengage, but the Olaf is just so fast. And here's the Wukong dying on the outside, and as much, oh no, they didn't get out. Huge scatter of the week from the Syndra. Now it might seem nice that they got out of this fight, but they've given up Elder towards Ainlay, and all Ainlay really needs to do is pick a lane, push it down, and there's not a whole lot Center High can do.
Yeah, that was just a little bit of a miscommunication right there. I do think that Bard should have ulted first and then have the Hecarim and the Wukong going together, have the Kaisa dive in, but at the end of the day, Ainlay got the Elder Dragon, and it looks like that they're going to be going for this end.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's a whole lot you can do. They have the Elder Drake on them, they're ahead in comp, so this is definitely a very, very clean game from Ainlay. They focused on their vision, they took their neutral objectives, and this is it paying off in true form.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like that they might want to pad the KDA.
Gotta pad those KDs, and we got Wukong all, but you see the Elder Drake is just too strong. And they got the knocked up onto the Kaisa, but Kaisa wisely flashes out, but they're just going on to the Nexus. And this is going to be Ainlay 1 securing their place as top 1 out of Pool 4, sending Center High out of the tournament, and then Ross Shepard will be taking up second because of this game.
Yeah, that was just very good, just map control overall from Ainlay. They used the advantages that they had in lane, especially the bot lane. They were able to rotate the bot lane duo over to these objectives in time before Center High were able to get there.
Yeah, exactly. So just a masterclass in that. So I think we can point out, like, usually we want to look at moments and stuff like that where the game kind of changed, but I think a crucial one you should look at is maybe you'd like to break down that early game jungle where it looked like the Hecarim was going to take it, but then Ainlay actually just completely flipped it on them.
Yeah, definitely. I do think that Ainlay, they played very well around the objectives. They were there when the dragon spawned. They were there when the Rift Herald spawned very early on, and because they were just so far ahead in tempo, this just allowed them to accelerate their lead even further. And even if the Hecarim was ahead a little bit in the early game, if your whole team is behind in tempo, it's not going to amount to much.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think there's a whole lot we can break down. We were kind of talking about the game there, so we'll cut to break. Thank you all for watching, and the next game coming up will be actually Ainlay 2 versus Lazert.